I'm a lover of off meta, it's no secret. I'm a fan of finding builds that aren't quite orthodox on many champions, despite me maining the role that has arguably the least build diversity in the game. So why not look at the one marksman that has the most build diversity in the game? I don't even know if I should be talking about one or more builds here in this video. I mean, I definitely can produce more content making different videos for the same champion, hee hee ho ho, but let's talk about Ezreal. Ezreal is a marksman whose kit is basically a blank slate. Ezreal's passive gives him a stack of rising spell force every time he lands an ability. Each stack gives Ezreal 10% bonus attack speed, capping at 50%. Ezreal's most important ability, and arguably his entire identity as a champion, his Q, Mythic Shot fires a bolt of energy that deals physical damage and applies on hit at 100% effectiveness. That's the key to all of Ezreal's power. Whenever Mythic Shot hits an enemy, all of Ezreal's cooldowns, including Mythic Shot, are lowered by 1.5 seconds. With this ability alone, Ezreal is one mana hungry fella. All of Ezreal's builds have one thing in common, and that commonality is mana and cooldown reduction. Two items give both of those stats, Essence Reaver and Manamune. While I was toying around with all of these builds, every single build had one of those two items as their first item. Since we're talking about crit Ezreal, it's pretty clear that every build I've tested starts with Essence Reaver every time with no exception. Essence Reaver gives 45 AD, 20 ability haste, and 20% crit chance at a price of 2800 gold, a very decent first item at a modest price. Compare this to Manamune, 35 AD, 15 ability haste, and 500 flat mana, which evolves into Muramana when you fully stack tier at the slightly less humble price of 2900. Muramana straight up does more damage than Essence Reaver when fully stacked. However, the drawback is that Essence Reaver is a much earlier power spike than Manamune. After Essence Reaver, most people will build Duskblade after. It's cheap, does massive damage, and gives Ezreal more stats that he'd want, but I'm not doing that. This is crit Ezreal, and we're building crit damage. The reason I'm spawning this build in the first place is literally because of how this champion feels to play. Ezreal feels awful to play without at least one attack speed upgrade. I don't care what anyone says, oh stack your passive, it's how he gets attack speed. Yeah, no, shit that's how he gets attack speed, but it feels like nothing when he has nothing to begin with. Not to mention, Ezreal isn't 100% a spell slinger in the first place. He's still a marksman. He still primarily does damage with auto attacks. I mean, his passive literally gives him an attack speed. He's not a spell slinger, he's a spell weaver. And I mean, I feel like I should have some authority saying this. Ezreal's literally my second most played champion. Anyway, it took a lot of experimentation to find out what mythic item to take on Ezreal, and after a lot of consideration, I believe the optimal choice is a Mortal Shield Bow. Kraken Slayer would be your first thought, considering Kraken Slayer stacks on Ezreal's Q. If you didn't know that, it does. It procs it too. But Immortal Shield Bow gives Ezreal the survivability he really needs. Not to mention the healing on Q with this item is actually insane. Gale Force can give Ezreal the movement speed that he desperately needs. He's in the group with the lowest base movement speed in the game, just above the group that has artificially slowed movement speed, like Kled or Rel. The survivability is just better, however. In today's society, full build is pretty much just two items. The question is always what two items will give you the best power spike for the most efficient price. On Ezreal, that's kind of a difficult question because testing his two item power, the damage was relatively the same with each build. Manamune Triforce, Manamune Sunderer, Essence Reaver Duskblade, Essence Reaver with any crit mythic. All of these builds do generally the same amount of DPS. Manamune will obviously start to do more damage later in the game once tier is stacked. Ezreal is probably the biggest lover of the AD stat in the bottom lane. Ezreal loves stacking AD. AD makes his abilities hit hard, and I mean really hard. His Q has a 130% AD ratio on it. Sheen is only the icing on the cake that stacking AD does on him. So to really make this crit build work, items that just give attack speed and crit don't really do anything for Ezreal. After all, we're still building to make Q do damage. Q is Ezreal's main tool for damage no matter what build path we take. That is also the reason why every build starts with Essence Reaver. Ezreal's Q is the star, baby. After building Essence Reaver and Immortal Shield Bow, Ezreal has really good dueling power. At this point you'll have 100 bonus AD under your belt, healthy survivability, and of course the Sheen proc. So third item is going to be Infinity Edge. It gives the largest amount of AD and will amplify your crit by your auto attacks. I fiddled around with trying out Rage Blade on Ezreal because in theory this item should be amazing while building crit on Ezreal, converting all of his crit damage into on-hit damage so that way it will work on his Q. However, after testing, I discovered that this item is not worth building at all because it does not give any AD and the bonus damage on hit on his Q is negligible at best. If this item was reworked with different stats but with the same type of unique passive, I am sure that this item would actually be quite good on Ezreal. So now with these three items, Essence Reaver, Shield Bow, IE, you have a whopping bonus 170 AD. Paired with the Sheen passive from Essence Reaver at Q max level, your Qs will do a whopping 611 damage to enemies with these three items. Compare that to Manamune, Immortal Sunder, Serylda's Grudge. With Manamune uncharged, Q will deal 550 damage max level Q, and when fully stacked, will only start doing the same amount of damage, barely more than crit. However, you could argue that the DPS would be about the same with both builds, because Sunder build gives more ability haste than crit build does. Crit build gives more attack speed. It's actually really more like a playstyle preference. The rest of the build can be rounded off with situational items: Collector, Stormrazor, Doms, Navori Quickblades. I haven't tried Navori Quickblades myself yet, but just thinking about it sounds like it would be a fantastic item on this Ezreal build. Mortal Reminder isn't as good as Chemtech Putrefier. If you need to build Grievous Wounds, continue building Chemtech Putrefier. As for runes, you want to go standard Ezreal runes. Although I suppose Ezreal has a lot of standard rune sets, you're going to want to go either Conqueror, Press the Attack, or Lethal Tempo. All three runes work on Ezreal and are pretty situational. Conqueror is the most general rune and is generally safest rune to take. Presence of Mind, Legend Alacrity, or Legend Bloodline. I personally take Alacrity because I think Ezreal does not feel good without attack speed. Finish it off with Coup de Grace or Cut Down. Obviously situational against the enemy team. Secondaries take Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. Since you're not building Manamune, you don't need Mana Flow Band. I made this video because I really want to analyze builds that are unconventional on some champions. Riot wanted to make Season 11 the season of build diversity, and I would like to see that through, especially since a lot of builds aren't diverse at all. Crit Ezreal I honestly believe is similar in power to his meta builds, does actual good damage. Just because Ezreal's Q can't crit doesn't mean he can't build crit himself. If you like this video, you should give it a like. Or not, I don't care. Actually, I care a little bit. Subscribe if you want to see more, and tell me what other builds you'd like to see me bust. Thanks for watching. Ouch.
There's an unspoken law in archaeology. Finders keepers. Hear the music.
I was gonna word that. Oh! He landed that sick predict. Okay, I can't be mad at him for that. That was pretty sick.